So the movie starts out with another flashback where we actually get to see Gollum when he's Schmeagol and his friend, what was it, Deagle? And they're fishing. But Deagle gets caught on a fish and goes underwater and finds the ring. And then Schmeagol kills him for the ring.
Because Smeagol wanted it.
Smeagol wanted it.
Because it was
we
his...
wants it.
It's our birthday. So he was justified in the murder. But I guess the other inhabitants didn't see it that way.
Give it to Schmeagol. It's my birthday.
Just let us hold some. And then they throw him out of the village. And he gets...
Does he get thrown out of the village, or
Yeah,
does he
he
just
fucking-
kind of go off on his own?
No, there's that scene where he's like, "Wah!" and gets hit in the head with a rock, and
Oh, yeah. I like the deterioration scene of him, though.
Yeah.
Like, he looks way freakier in that last scene you see him.
The best is when he's sitting just holding it like this, and he opens up his eyes, and then opens his hand, and then closes his hand and his eyes. Like, he's just sitting there holding it. That's all he does.
But then after that scene, we get to Gandalf, Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn, and King Theoden.
Oh, you pronounced it right this time.
And they're going to Isengard.
To see what's up. Because I guess they heard news that Treebeard fucked Saruman's shit up.
This is one of my favorite scenes, because they just walk up and they see Merry and Pippin just sitting, eating, feasting.
Smoking.
What do they say? Like, we have grilled pork and
That's
Gimli.
salted pork.
Salted pork and Gimli's. I don't know why I was
Gimli's
calling
like,
Gimli.
this is a battlefield. What are you doing smoking long bottom weed and relaxing? And they're like, the salted pork is particularly good. And then Gimli's like, salted pork? Salted pork?
If this was a Marvel movie, you'd hear his stomach growl and everything.
And he'd fall off the horse and everyone would go, Gimli! And then it would cut to
Throws him a
Thanos.
piece, he
Yeah.
goes, "Ow."
And then it would cut to Thanos sitting in a chair doing nothing.
Thanos was a very good villain.
He was probably the best part of those movies.
Yeah.
That was it, though. Everything else sucked.
Avengers Assemble.
Avengers Assemble or Death? Which was the better charge?
I got more goosebumps with the Avengers
Oh.
Assemble. It's just a better person. I mean.
King Theoden's speech. Ride now, ride for ruin, and the world's ending. It's so good.
I love how once they get past them, though, you just see Treebeard and all them just kind of like
Pounding on the fucking door, trying to get into Isengard. And then it just all the way up to the top, and Saruman's like, fuck.
Treebeard's like, he's hiding. He's being a bitch.
And Gandalf's like, you were, what was it? You were in bed with the enemy, or whatever he kept repeating. Oh, you were in the enemy's council. Come down and tell us. Fucking tell us secrets. And he's like, no, fuck you.
Then you have, what was his name?
Grima Wormtongue.
Grimmer Worm is what I'm going to call him.
Grima Wormtongue. You were a man of Rohan once. So cool. The movie's awesome.
Now, what does Gandalf do to... Oh, yeah, he blows up his...
Staff.
Staff,
You have
and then-
no power. And
Yeah, and then Grimmer Wormtongue's like, whoa, what's going on?
yeah.
He got really the shit end of everybody in the story.
Grima.
It's taken over. Then Legolas is just like,
Oh, shit.
boop.
Because
Why?
Gimli went, put an arrow in him. Put an arrow right in his heart, if you can. He said that to him when Saruman first walked out on the balcony. Gimli was like, shoot him. Kill him. And Legolas knocked, and then Gandalf was like, don't. So that was more just Legolas being like, I could do it if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he got shot by Legolas, he kind of stabbed Saruman and pushed him off the thing and had like the most gnarly death.
Fell like 100 million miles.
Fell onto the water wheel. It just goes...
And then out of his sleeve, the Palantir falls out.
What did Théoden say or something? Like,
Now Treebeard goes, and so the filth of Saruman is washed away from these lands. Which you can tell is not a Tolkien line. Because, like, it would be way more poetic, because Treebeard does poetry all the time. So,
he was on a whim.
yeah. So, while they're all discussing what to do next, because they don't know where he's going to attack, because they're like, fuck, we needed Saruman to tell us where Sauron's army is going to come from. So they're like, all right, we'll split our forces. Half of you go north to, like, Dol Guldur. The rest of us will go south to Barad-dûr. And we'll figure it out. And then Pippin sees a Chinese in the water, so he jumps in and picks up the Palantir and is like, this is weird. And Mary's like, put it down.
Pippin's like, I can't. And he just,
and then the eye opens up and says, I see you. And his hands like get stuck to it and he can't pull it off. Oh, no, that doesn't happen yet. Gandalf sees him.
no, Gandalf sees him and grabs him and wraps it up real tight.
In his cloak, yeah.
Then
They go to Erebus and they have a big old party to celebrate.
Then you get the great scene that was cut out. That was in the extended version.
It's okay that it was cut because they needed to make room for the giant hour-long battle. So
I'd rather see stuff like this than an hour-long battle.
yeah, but
I want to see a dwarf and an elf having a drinking contest.
Yeah, but that was the most Marvel movie moment because they're like doing quips and stuff, you know. And Gimli drank more, but he passed out, so he still lost. Legolas had like 12 glasses in front of him. Gimli had like a pile, and it's like, sure, you drank faster and more, but you couldn't hold it.
Yeah, but if Legolas drank as much as he did there, he'd probably be a little bit sloshed.
A little slow.
He wouldn't be passed out. He's like,
felt something
after
tingly.
12 beers, like, ooh, that's nice.
Ooh, tinglies.
But then it cuts to them, and they're in the Betty by times. Gandalf is snuggling with the orb or whatever it's called.
He's holding the Palantir.
The Palantir.
Because in Rohan, everyone parties, and then wherever you land, you know, when you're, you know, and that's where you sleep for the night.
But Pippin's too enchanted by it.
Yeah, he's like,
he does the whole Indiana Jones thing.
Switched it with a chamber pot.
So gross.
I know. And then he looks at it, and Mary's like, "Stop!" Again.
Mary is so useless in the scene. So he's like, "What are you doing? Hey, probably shouldn't do that."
Pippin, stop.
Pippin.
And then Pippin does it.
Mary's like, "Pippin, stop."
Glows. It does that cool like glowing orange effect with the blacks and the blue.
Mm.
And the eye appears, and it reads Pippin's mind, or it tries to read Pippin's mind, but Pippin's able to fight it off, kinda. But I think he dies in that scene. And then Aragorn runs in and rips it out of his hand, and then Aragorn's like, "Oh fuck!" Because it brings Aragorn to his knees, and he's Numenor, so he's like powerful.
And then Gandalf has to do like the come back to life.
He has to go over to Pippin and speak some magic words and bring him back to life.
White magic.
And then he's like, "What did you see?" And he's like, "What happened?" And he was like, "What did you tell him?" And he's like, "I didn't tell him anything. And then he's like, "Well, what did you see?" And he's like, "I saw a white tree burning." Gandalf's like, "Fuck, Minas Tirith. We need to ride out." And then Pippin's like, "Yeah, all right, let's go, everyone."
I just love how the scene to show the resolve of him not giving away Frodo. So pretty much, what's his
painting a target on his back instead of Frodo.
Saruman?
It's Sauron and Saruman.
Right, Sauron's like, "You're the one with the ring.
You fucking hobbit."
So they have to split up. Gandalf gets what's his name?
Pippin.
No, he gets Aragorn.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to go this way. Stuff will happen.
Yeah, you need to go ride. You need to ride with King Theoden's army. Basically, you need to wait here. So when I call for aid, you can convince everyone to follow. Is basically what he said.
Then he's like, "Pippin, come with me."
Yeah, we got to go somewhere. And then Pippin's like, "I don't want to go nowhere." Or he's like, "All right."
And you have the saddest scene in the movie.
How far away is Minas Tirith? 3 days as the Nazgul flies, and you don't want one of those on our tail.
It's so sad. Merry and Pippin split up.
Gives him the last of the weed.
Yeah.
He's like, "You always smoke too much." He's like, "You're coming too, right?" And he's like,
Mary should have went with him.
"No, it's quicker with 2 on the horse than 3."
Yeah, but
Whatever. They needed to split up.
some dramatic stuff happened.
And then there's that scene where Mary runs up the steps and he pushes that guy out of the way, and that guy gives the most like, "What the fuck?" like look at Mary ever. So he can stand on it and give that thing about like, "I was always there to get him out of trouble, and I didn't get him out of trouble this time, and now I can't help him, and fuck." Then
so what's the place called they go to?
Minas Tirith.
Where they meet
Denethor.
Denethor,
son of Icthelion, Lord and Steward of Gondor.
Biggest piece of shit ever.
Don't say anything, Pippin. Don't fucking say a word. He might not know Boromir's dead.
So they walk in to see his
He's
fucking
holding the horn of Gondor and it's broken in half. And see Gandalf be like, "Oh shit!" But Pippin doesn't read the room and runs over and pledges his service.
Pippin's like, "All right, my fault. He died.
He died saving me, so I give you my life." And then Denethor starts being crazy.
And then Gandalf's like looking at him like, "You fucked up.
You fucked up. You can't get me. I can't get you out of this one. Because oaths in the Lord of the Rings universe hold magic power. So him giving an oath, being like, "My life," that's magic there somehow.
Right, if that was real,
that would suck.
You'd be indebted to me in this podcast.
Are you kidding me?
I give you my oath, I will be good on the show.
Nah. And then yeah, so Gandalf basically tells him that Aragorn is back and that he's the heir to the throne of Gondor, and Denethor's like, "Fuck him. I'm not giving up my power." And then Gandalf's like, "This ain't good." he's like, "Call Rohan for aid." And he's like, "No." And then it's like,
why won't we get help from them? Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
where were they when Osgiliath fell? And then it cuts to Aragorn over with Theoden being like, "Yo, you need to help Gondor." And he's like, "Where was Gondor at Helm's Deep?"
And somebody seems like, "You guys are far away from each other."
But even so, it's like, you don't get it. If you don't work together, that's it. Mankind's over.
All right, let's take a break from their storyline and go over to the Frodo storyline.
Yeah. So Frodo and Gollum and Sam are traversing Mordor.
And they go into the steps.
Yeah, outside of Minas Morgul. I don't know, the secret steps.
Yeah.
And it's
the steps where it's really just step, climb.
Cliff face with like handholds that you're just going up. Fucking then Minas Morgul shoots the green shit in the air to signal their attack, right? That the army's gonna march out into the Pelennor field. And Frodo like freaks out and like almost runs to like give them the ring, but then Sam pulls him back. And then they're like halfway up the fucking steps.
This is where they make kind of camp.
Yeah, they're camping, and Smeagol crushes up the last of the Lambus bread, sprinkles some crumbs on Sam, and throws the rest.
Fat hobbitses.
Yeah, and then Sam catches him like in the act and starts punching him. And then Frodo wakes up and is like, "Stop, Sam!" And he's like, "What's going on?" And Frodo's like, "He ate all the food. Look, he's got crumbs on him." And then Sam's like, "You know that's not true." And then Frodo's like, "You need to go home.
Like, you don't know the struggle, Sam.
Go home." And then Sam just sits down in fucking defeat and starts crying.
Oh, that was sad.
And then we cut to Pippin and Gandalf, and they're having a speech about like they're just looking at Mordor, and it's just an exploding volcano and red lightning and black clouds. And Gandalf explains how like sunlight hurts orc skin. That's why the cloud is stretching over
Mm.
because like the orcs will be able to march in the daytime now. And he's like sowing doom, and then Pippin's like, yeah, but we got the White Wizard on our side, and that kind of like reassures get like refreshes. He's like, you're right, you do have the White Wizard on your side, so things will be okay.
The Hobbits are great in these movies.
They're the perfect like
They're the fucking MVPs in this movie.
they do everything and like don't complain.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is struggling and like they struggle twice as hard, but they don't. They're like, oh, it's okay.
All right, before we get into that, let's stick to Frodo and Sam for a sec. That storyline.
Okay.
So basically, they're going up to the thing, and Gollum leads them into what's the spider's name?
Shelob's lair.
Shelob. Sounds like a thing from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
So they lead him into Shelob's lair, and Frodo's like, Gollum, where'd you go? But he gone.
He gone, and then Frodo gets stuck in a spider web, and he pulls out the light of. I want to keep calling it Elune, but that's from Warcraft, I think. So it's the same concept though. Starlight in a bottle.
He just starts hacking away at the spider web trying to
And
escape.
anytime Shelob comes up, it's because spiders were created. Somehow spiders existed before the world was created.
So there was no light and all that.
Yeah, so there was no light. Like it was a giant spider that ruined the Tree of Life that gave Morgoth, that made Morgoth evil, and Sauron was Morgoth's like second in command. So Sauron ain't even the big bad. He's like the bitch big bad, but he's still bigger and badder than everyone else that's still alive.
And isn't the spider lady like some super hot goth chick?
No, that's in the second video game. Not canon at all, but fun.
Yeah.
I kept one orc around, and anytime I saw him, I shamed him, so I must have like burned his face like 80 times. It's like all my other orcs are like max level, and I'm taking them online to tournaments and stuff. Like, because they would do like you could pit your orcs against other orcs in like a fighting pit. So like my orc was a super badass, and then I would throw a shitty orc in, and he would die, and then I'd resurrect him. He's like, "Why won't you let me die?" And then I shame him, and I would just throw him back in there. Anyway,
So pretty much, what Frodo all of a sudden gets like snuck up on, stabbed.
he thinks he's escaped. He falls out of the cave, and him and Gollum are like having a conversation, and then Frodo's like, "I have to destroy it," and then no, like Gollum attacks him, and then Frodo throws him off a cliff, and now Frodo doesn't have his sword because he left Sting in the web
Yeah.
while he was escaping, and he's kind of just like trying
And at
to
this
think.
point, he dropped the light too.
Yeah, he's like trying to think of what to do, and he just stands there, and then he turns around, and you see Shelob just stick him in the chest, which he was wearing the mithril.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. Like, how strong is this spider's fucking?
It wouldn't have penetrated the mithril, but I think the poison was absorbed through his skin.
Yeah.
Because when they hold it, the mithril shirt, it's still intact. You know.
So that's probably why he's not just dead.
Yeah, he didn't outright die, but she then covered him in the web.
And it's when Sam
And
comes.
Sam's like,
Now, is this before or after he beats up some orcs?
This is before.
Because this is when he sneaks in and the orcs come and get him,
Yeah, this is before all that. So he.
and he just leaves Frodo. 'cause
Yeah,
he's dead.
well, he runs over, he rips the webbing, he sees Frodo like, "Ugh," and he starts crying over him, and then he hears the orcs coming, so he shuffles around with Frodo. We don't really see what he does, and then he runs away and hides. And then the orcs are like, "Oh, that's our she got. Still alive though. She likes to eat her prey fresh. Blah blah blah. Let's take this back to the tower or whatever."
Oh, we're idiots. We forgot to talk about how Sam just fucks up the spider.
Sam fights Shelob 1v1 and like wins.
Yeah,
I
he
mean-
has the light in his hand, just like.
I mean, round 2 would definitely go to Shelob, but like round 1 was totally Sam's.
Shelob was caught off guard.
And she was like, "Oh, this will be easy." And then when he stabbed her in the face, and she like walked back and was like,
Didn't he
"All
like
right."
cut one of her limbs off?
Yeah,
Too?
he cut like one of her mandibles off, and then stabbed her in the gut. That's what got her to run away.
Sam's a hero.
Yeah.
Stupid Sam
Sam-
leaving Frodo.
Yeah, he was. And think about it, he's like a hobbit laborer, so he's got to be like tough.
Yeah.
You know, he's not like a fop like Frodo, who's like studying books and hanging out in the woods. Sam's like fucking building shit with his hands,
Mowing lawns with his hands.
probably pulling weeds with his hand. You
Yeah.
know,
Get them strong fingers.
he's probably Sam's the laborer, so
That's
Sam
why I could pull Frodo up so easily.
he did carry Frodo on his back after no food or water for like a couple days in a row.
I do love how they showed the struggle of him carrying. He was just one of those scenes where he's like, "I got you."
I got you, and like the triumphant music plays, and he goes, "Ah, boy, you're heavy," and then everyone claps. No, this was him like slipping to like one knee and like almost dropping him and like falling and having to pick himself back up.
Before you hear Frodo, Sam, stop fucking up. Just carry me.
Come on, Sam, it ain't that far. Mr. Frodo, I thought you passed out.
I'm just too tired, Sam.
I want to go to sleep. No, Frodo, you gotta get the ring in the mountain. I just want to go to sleep, Sam.
Just carry me better.
So yeah, Frodo gets taken up to a tower, and Sam is like, "Fuck!" And then we cut to the Battle of Osgiliath.
And this is when Faramir gets sent into the.
This is before he gets sent back.
Oh yeah, this is when he's getting
Faramir's-
ambushed. And they're like,
yeah,
"Retreat."
him and his garrison, like they do a seawater attack, which is I love how one guy paddles too hard and Gothmog instantly is like, "Stop!" Like he's keeping his troops in line, and they get real close, and then they kill that one archer, and then they're like, "Fuck it, full speed!" And then like it's like D-Day, like the things fall, and they let the people run past them, like 5 guys get past, like trying to get the majority of his army like in the center of their ambush,
Imagine just being on land and seeing all those fucking orcs coming
just
at you.
like up against the stone wall, like, "All right," and catch him in the stomach. Yeah, and they fight all night because the next time we see them when they're losing, it's daytime, and Faramir sounds a retreat, and they're trying to get the fuck away, and then the Nazgul show up, and they're attacking the horsemen and Denethor's like, I don't. Gandalf's like, we gotta help him, and Denethor's like, fuck that shit, I don't care. That's my shitty son. So Gandalf rides out solo,
Solar flare.
fucking straight up solar ray. It's a level 3 D&D spell. Does 1d6 times whatever your level for additional rays, and he just boom and shoots like the Nazgul, and it freaks the fuck out and flies away, and he saves everyone. And the important part is everyone in the city saw that happen, so they're like, fuck yeah, we got a White Wizard on our team.
This is where the morale starts coming in.
Yeah.
That's why when Denethor was like, we need to retreat.
Everyone's just kind of like not retreating, but not attacking. They're just kind of standing there confused until Gandalf fixes the situation.
And it's like, no, everybody get back to your stations.
Back to your posts, man your walls.
Oh, fucking Denethor sending his son out to the suicide.
Yeah,
That was so shitty.
we need the city of Osgiliath, but Father, No, you wish. No, what did he say? You think the wrong son died, and he goes, yeah. And then you see Faramir just be like, oh.
And that's when he's totally defeated. So I remember, what's his name? Gandalf's like, you don't have to do this. He's
He's like, what's the point? I don't care.
and Gandalf's like, your father does love you.
He'll love me, and he goes, he didn't love me in life, but perhaps he'll love me in death or something like that. And then Pippin was in the room, and Denethor was like, yeah, I wish you died, not Boromir. So Pippin's like, huh.
I fucked up.
This is shitty. And then the song Pippin sings while Denethor is eating, and Faramir is doing the charge in Osgiliath, which is such a cool scene.
And you said he wrote that, right?
Yeah, that's his own song.
Cool.
Yeah, his own song that he sings himself. I like the scene where when the Gondorian knights like line up to do the charge, you kind of see Gothmog like look, and then like look at his guys and be like, okay, arrows, like if this is what's happening.
Let's catch him off guard.
Yeah. Well, they were more like, what? Like, there's like 60 of you and like 200 of us.
Now, what happens to Faramir? I kind of forget. Like, gets him sent back and almost dead. And this is when Denethor thinks he's dead.
His horse somehow found a way back.
Yeah,
with
that's
him
what it
being
was.
dragged by his foot.
Yeah.
So he got fucked up, probably like hit with a sword or something or a club, knocked unconscious, and was dragged back by his horse.
And this is when Denethor goes full fucking crazy.
My
He's like,
boy! My boys are dead!
I guess I kind of did like this one.
I have no heirs! My line is dead! And he starts like freaking out like that. And then that's when Gandalf goes, all right, Pippin, we need to light the fucking signal, because
They come up with their sneaky little
yeah,
plan.
this is way beyond us.
You cannot fail.
Yeah. So Pippin climbs this
Poor
fucking huge ass tower, gets to the top, fucking spills oil on the fucking pyre, lights it, and then is like, yeah. And
I
then
like how it was an accident he spelled. He's like, no, it works.
yeah, and I like how he's standing on it while it's burning.
Then he gets caught.
It's burning. He's standing there, and he's like, because he realizes he's standing on a burning pyre. And then he jumps off right as the guards turn to look, and the guards are like, "Do we put it out?" And then before they can even think, in the distance, one lights, and then it does this cool shot where it shows like the mountain range from Gondor to Erebus, like each mountain peak has a light lit. It's so cool.
Not that always bring it back to Game of Thrones, but I wish Peter Jackson could have directed a few Game of Thrones episodes.
It would have been amazing, because like Peter Jackson's because Game of Thrones wouldn't want him to shoot the movie. He'd be like, we need miniatures, and they'd be like, no, use CGI. And he goes, I did that once in these 3 Hobbit movies, and it was terrible. We need to use miniatures. Trust me. God, the miniatures were awesome.
Yeah.
That table in the Fellowship, just Gandalf and Bilbo.
It's so weird. It's just like moving, but you can't see
You
it.
can't fucking tell when you're looking at the eye of the camera, but if you're in the room, you see the illusion broken.
Basically, like the camera's on tracks, and you have Frodo sitting here and Gandalf sitting here.
They were
And
doing
every
a
time,
forced perspective, but the second you move the camera with a forced perspective, it becomes completely obvious that you're doing it. So they had to move the set with the camera,
Yeah.
and the characters had to have their to be looking at each other. They would have to turn their heads slightly with the set to still keep eye contact. A lot of fucking ingenious bullshit. Like, now they just use CGI, but back then you used to have to do tricks.
you get some impatient bad actors in these movies that totally ruin it.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to show you the behind the scenes for these movies. Every behind the scenes, like you saw it, Gimli and fucking Aragorn were playing soccer with the skull. Like they were actually all buddies.
Can't believe they had 80,000 mini skulls. for that scene.
80,000 mini skulls for the City of Dead in a miniature. I thought that scene was CGI until I saw that, because I was like, that looks so good. It's got to be fake.
You know how much money that would cost back then to have to individually draw each skull and put it in?
You saw the urethane guy that had the mold. He was dipping it in, pulling it out, and then and then putting it down.
Imagine an animator though trying to do that. Like
he would just draw like a mound of skulls and then detail like 4 or 5 and then add like a shake effect. That's what they do. Or he'd draw like 6 skulls in a pile and copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
all right, so let's go back to Frodo and Sam now.
So Frodo's in the tower,
And this
unconscious.
is when the orcs are fighting over.
I think it's
what's it called? The chainmail.
Mithril.
They're
It's
fighting over the Mithril.
It's Barad-dûr orcs, I guess, and Dol Guldur orcs. So like North orcs and South orcs. That's why they kind of faction off into 2 parties the second the Civil War starts. So they're fighting over the shirt, and the orc with the piercings is like, no, it goes to Sauron. Like we pillage for him because obviously he's a Barad-dûr orc. He lives under the giant eye. He's like, we give it to the giant eye.
Oh, I
And
want it.
the orc from the north is like, fuck that, give it to me. And then he like hits him, and then he shoves him down like a hole, and he lands on the ground, and he's like, that orc tried to stick me. And then like half the orcs pull swords, the other half the orcs pull swords, and it's just fucking
People bump into each other like, fuck you.
fuck it, and they all just start fighting, and they all start killing each other. And Sam takes this opportunity to sneak through, right, and he makes it to the tower where Frodo's being held.
Fucks up orcs.
And the orcs that started the fight are the only 2 left alive, apparently, at the top of the tower.
Well, it's the ones with the best makeup.
Yeah, the cooler looking ones, yeah. And they're sitting there like about to kill each other, and then Sam comes up and he's got 2 swords. He's got his and Sting, and he's like, ah, and they're like, oh fuck, and then they see it's Sam.
I love he's like having his battle cry, like, I'm pumped up for this.
I'm hype, and then they see him, they're like, oh, it's just a hobbit. So the hobbits employ this strategy throughout most of the movie. It is called the duck and
Duck and
stab.
stab.
Because apparently everyone just does like a chest level swing trying to hit the top of their heads, and when the hobbits duck, you just did a horizontal slash or swords all the way over here, and they just stick you in the gut.
Well, it's like trying to fight Yoda in Soul Calibur. It's fucking annoying.
That's why he was tournament banned. Anyway. Yeah, so he goes up to Frodo and he wakes him up, and then Frodo realizes he doesn't have the ring.
I've got it for you, Mr. Frodo.
And then Frodo's like, give it here, Sam. And you see Sam like start to think about it, like, this could be mine. And then he looks at Frodo, and Frodo's like, and he's like, okay, and he gives it to him, and Frodo looks like a junkie when he had,
And Sam's like, oh, Mr. Frodo.
I think I avoided that.
I think at that point Sam was like, probably should have held on to it.
Yeah. No, because then he would have been corrupted. He was looking at Frodo and be like, oh yes,
Sam
yes.
wouldn't have been.
He was smart.
It took that long for Frodo to get corrupted. How long do you think it would take Sam to get corrupted?
Depends.
Like 10 years.
Also, keep in mind the ring was trying to get back to the eye.
Yeah.
So of course it's gonna help Frodo get there.
That's true, I guess.
It is. Remember
is.
they say
Yeah.
it falls off. It falls off Isildur's finger, it falls out of Gimli's pocket and into Bilbo Baggins's, and then it stays on Bilbo's floor until Frodo picks it up. The ring wanted to be found.
Yeah, that mischievous ring. Piece of shit.
So cool. That was such a cool idea. Inanimate objects, a character.
Most evil character in the fucking movie. So now,
so basically what happens is the braziers get lit. They go all the way back to Erebus, where Aragorn and crew are encamped. And Aragorn sees them, and he fucking books it up those steps. I do like the fact that, like, you know, it was like those big wide steps, and he was like jumping to the next one pretty much, like really
double jump.
He could have just been like a lazy actor where they do that fake quick run, but it really looked like Aragorn was trying to do
No,
it.
Viggo Mortensen doesn't.
Yeah,
Just
fake quick run, like that awful scene in
Taken.
No, that's just, I don't know what that was. It was just bad editing, I guess. No, who was the Jessica Drew? Is that what I'm thinking of? Where she's chasing the wizard, and the wizard's a big fat guy with super speed, and he's doing the fake fast run, and then she's behind him doing the fake fast run, and it just looks fucking terrible.
Was it a TV show?
Yeah, the chick who bangs Luke Cage, played by the chick who ODs in Breaking Bad.
Oh,
Kristen Ritter.
Yeah.
What was that show? Jessica Jones?
Yeah.
Jessica Jones. Jessica Drew. What is that? Nancy Drew, I guess.
No, Jessica Drew is Spider-Woman.
Oh, there we go. See, I was still in the same universe. I got a lot of comic book knowledge up here, and the wires get crossed. Anyway, yeah, so he doesn't do the fake bullshit run. He runs up the steps. He runs in. Gondor calls for aid. And then this is prior to Theoden being like, fuck Gondor. And he stands there, and it does this cool zoom in where you see everyone turn to him. And he stands there, and he pauses for a second to think, and he goes, then Gondor shall have it. And everyone's like, yeah!
This is where my opinion of King Theoden totally changed.
Because what did they say in Two Towers? They called him the Lesser King.
Mm.
And he, like, you could tell he really took that to heart. He's like, you're the lesser of your, you know, no heir and the Lesser King. And so now he's like, fuck this. I'm fucking King Theoden. I can do this, you know? So he tells Éomer to ride and go collect men, and then Grimble, you go to the south and collect men, and whatever the other begins with an H, I always forget his name, goes east. So he sends out all his best captains to go and fucking recruit anyone old enough to hold a sword. Fucking come on, let's go. And then they go to the cool campsite.
And then it cuts to Gandalf back at other thing, trying to rally up the troops, right?
No, it's the siege. The siege doesn't really start until Aragorn goes into the mountain. Because Denethor. Yeah, you're right. So it cuts to the siege beginning. Gothmog has his entire army out in front of Minas Tirith.
And that's Denethor's place, right?
Yeah, Denethor's place. And they start launching catapults. And Denethor hasn't given the order.
It's so brutal too, because catapults are just the heads of the army.
Yeah. Let's return the prisoners. So you see everyone start freaking out. Denethor's freaking out. And then they launch stones at the city. And it starts fucking shit up. And Denethor's like, fuck it, we lost, we quit, we're done. And Gandalf cracks him in the head, the gut, and then just smashes it on his back and knocks him completely unconscious and goes, fuck it, get back to your post.
I love that scene too, because Gandalf kind of just comes out of nowhere. He's like, fuck this.
Oh, he definitely used wizard teleport or something. It was just like, as soon as he heard Denethor, retreat, he was like, nope, instant teleportation up and just beat the shit out of him. And then he gets the trebuchets to start shooting back. And you see Gothmog like, bah, like screaming at the stone as it comes right at him, and then he gets his... Yeah.
I love that scene too, because he's like, nobody move, stay in your space. So the whole time I'm like, is this motherfucker really gonna get killed?
No, Gothmog is like the smartest orc that ever lived. He's so cool. So cool. The fact that they named their orcs, like I know he's named in the book and stuff, but in the movie it could have just been like whatever. They like
Orc commander.
Like some of the Orcai were named and shit like that. Like the orc that's like holding the mithril shirt has a name. You can Google his name and figure it out. Like it's cool that they gave random characters in one scene a name.
Yeah, they put a lot of detail in this movie.
From 2001 to 2003, they filmed 3 movies back to back to back. It must have been one just constant filming process.
Where were they again?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. It's not that bad place to be.
Yeah, not that bad at all. Beautiful. But so yeah, Gothmog is like Gondor's holding out, but it's pretty obvious they're gonna get overwhelmed soon. Especially since now the Nazgul will join the fight and are fucking shit up, and Gandalf's like, we can do this, guys, we can do this. And then it cuts back to the Rohan's encampment, right? And Aragorn gets told by Elrond. Elrond reforges an Arsil, and he tells Aragorn like, go rally those dead guys in the mountain over there. Like show them the sword and they'll listen to you. He's like, that sounds cool. And then Gimli and Legolas are like, I mean, you can't not make us. You know, we're going with you no matter what. And they go into the cave. And then Gimli gives that awesome line, an elf goes underground and a dwarf won't. I'll never hear the end of this. And then it cuts to Sam and Frodo, and they're like fucking dressed up like orcs trying to sneak through Orc City. And it's bad. And they get swept up into the ranks of orcs and get yelled at. And then what happens?
And they create like a diversion. They're like,
they pretend to fight so they can sneak through.
You're gonna take that from him.
Yeah, that's in the books and in the other movie. This was just Sam's like, hit me, Frodo, and Frodo punches him. And he's like, oh, you think you're gonna hit me? And then they pretend to fight. So then everyone's like, yeah, they're fighting. And then when the main orc comes over to break it up and everyone looks at the main orc, they crawl the fuck away.
This is the thing, when one guy gets shoved, they all start fighting.
Yeah, because they're fucking monsters, man. They think with aggression first.
It's like in the Boondocks. Chair.
Dude, it's the Boondocks nigga moment. Like, you stepped on my shoe. You know? Oh, like, it's just like the third example where they fight each other and they're like, man, that's stupid. We shouldn't throw our lives away. And then a cop shoots them both, you know, and the cop is Aragorn. It's the exact same thing.
All right, so then Aragorn goes into the thing. They find the dead guys. Some spooky stuff happens.
Yeah,
the skulls and
the
everything.
Cool skull scene. Aragorn basically says, like, I'm calling in your debts, and if you fucking fulfill your promise, fulfill your oath, I'll set you free. And they're like,
The main guy's like, "Fuck you!" Goes to swing at him. Everyone's like, "Ching!"
ching, and he's like, okay, so you guys are legit. I'm on your team. You know.
It's like, "You promise you'll let us go."
And he's like, yep. So then Aragorn continues through the mountain pass, and this mountain pass is literally from like the backside of Minas Tirith to the front door of Erebus. Like it's a straight up shot through the mountains, but because the ghosts live there, anyone who went in died.
Mm.
So Aragorn comes out and he's like by the shore and he's looking at these two shore towns just burning to the ground because of the Corsairs. And he like drops to his knees and he's like, I'm super fucking sad and depressed about this. And then the ghost is like, watch this, bro. And he fucking runs out to the boat and he murders everybody on the boat. And then Aragorn's like, oh fuck yeah, dude. And then
Fucking ghost. We'll get to that.
yeah, Theoden is it cuts back to Theoden's camp and he's like fucking Aragorn left us, but whatever, we don't need him. We got me. We're gonna ride out with like 10,000 guys. And they're like, we were expecting 20, and it's like, well,
What you got?
this is what we got. So they Merry swears allegiance way back prior before leaving the city.
I need to do this.
And then Theoden was like, yes, you can. And then when they're getting ready to ride out to war, he's like, dude, Aemir says the best line. He's like, sure, he wants to fight, but when he's really in the fight and he's hearing the screams and he's smelling the blood, do you think he'll keep, you know, his nerve, which is a real, because like he's a hobbit folk, he's from the Shire, they don't, but he doesn't know what Merry's been through.
Yeah.
You know, he's just judging him like, oh, he's a little hobbit. Like he hasn't killed an orc before, even though he fucking was a prisoner and then lived with trees and then fought a tree war and did all this cool shit. So Theoden tells Merry to stay behind, and he's just staying there super depressed. And then
What's her name?
Arwen?
Yeah.
Arwen
She grabs him.
Grabs him.
Stick with me.
puts him on the horse.
He looks back. He's like, "Oh, it's you. Cool."
Yeah.
And there's a whole scene.
Yeah, and then they ride out to Gondor's aid. Then it cuts to, does Denethor burn Faramir before or after?
After.
No, it's
During.
definitely before, because they didn't
Before the ghosts come, right?
before the Gandalf fights the Witch King.
Yeah, because it's the part where Pippin hears what's going on. He goes and tells Gandalf.
Yeah, Gandalf's
been
rallying troops, and he assembles everyone at the door,
Mm.
right? And they're trying to batter it with a ram, and then they get the other ram, the giant wolf head, and they
I think he saves Faramir before the wolf head, though.
before. All right, yeah, because he goes from so Gandalf's up on the wall, like just making them rain hell down on them, and he's like, "Don't shoot the tower, shoot the trolls!" Remember? And they fucking like 60 guys just light up a troll, and it just falls over dead. And then Pippin's like, "Gandalf, Denethor's gonna burn Faramir alive!" And then Gandalf's like, "Fuck!" So they kick open the door, and he's on the horse, and he smacks fucking Denethor in the head and pulls Faramir off, heals him. Denethor sees Faramir alive, and he's like, "Oh shit!" But he's on fire, and then
Yeah, he was all on fire during this, and
Yeah.
Gandalf pulled him out
Yeah.
before he could totally catch. Then Denethor falls off the cliff. like
runs
a
off the
bitch.
cliff and dies. And then Gandalf basically, I'm
Faramir
in
has no emotional reaction to this in the movie.
well, he's not really there. So then Faramir, we forget about the scene where Faramir tells Pippin whose armor he's wearing.
Oh yeah, it was my armor.
It was
when
my
I was a boy.
armor when I was a boy. I wanted to do anything to impress my father. And then Pippin's like, don't worry, he'll come around. Because hobbits, like the ultimate optimists.
Saddest thing.
Yep.
Never did.
No, when the last thing Denethor said was like, I love you, my boy, or whatever, like he snapped to just before he ran off dying.
Yeah.
Um,
Imagine if Denethor had the ring.
that he wanted the ring super bad. That's
No,
why
I'm just saying. Imagine if he actually got it.
he would have just fucking Sauron. He would have turned into a Nazgul like instantly. So then the siege is actually kind of going well. Like orcs really haven't made progress. Humans haven't really pushed them back yet. Then the Witch King of Angmar shows up.
And this is when the Eastern folk come.
No, Witch King of Angmar shows up, and Gandalf goes to fight him, and the Witch King pulls out a flaming sword and blows Gandalf's staff up.
Yeah.
Right, knocks Gandalf to the ground. Gandalf gets up, draws his sword. Pippin goes to draw his, but the thing about Nazgul shrieks is they make normal people like just paralyzed with fear. That's why Pippin ran off and just stopped. He's like, "Holy shit!" I don't know if you noticed, Shadowfax fucking postured to kick that shit in the head. Shadowfax was like, "I'm the Lord of Horses. I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. Let's go."
Now is this when Frodo puts the ring on? And they're like, "Shit, go that way."
No, this
That's-
is when you hear the horn of Rohan, and you see King Theoden come over the crest, right? And then all the riders show up behind him. The Witch King looks over his shoulder and goes, "Fuck!" And then
I thought the Witch King took off because Frodo put the ring on. They're like, "We have better things to do. Let's go this way." Is that further on in the movie?
that's further on in the movie. The Witch King was about to strike down Gandalf, and then the riders of Rohirrim showed up, and they fucking, and then Gothmog's like, "Form ranks, pikes in front, archers behind," right? And they all form ranks, and then Theoden's like fucking 10,000 long, just 5 deep cavalry line, and he gives the best speech in the movie. Fucking gets me, man. It gets me. So cool. Anyway, eventually, like 10,000 people are screaming death all at the same time while charging full speed in like this perfect cavalry charge to the point of where the orcs are kind of looking at each other like,
When you're having people screaming, "Duh!"
yeah, just because at that point they know they're gonna lose and they're still coming out as full force. Like, holy fuck. I like that one orc who shoots the bow and he's got a big old smile on his face, and then he's like, like what? And then the one with the spear who's like backing up, like, and then the orc line collapses because they fail their morale test, and then it's just no music, just a sound of hooves
Clinks.
crunching metal. You see fucking Aemir just like just throws a spear through a guy. He does that like 6 times in this movie, and Gandalf sees this and he's like, "Fuck yeah, hooray!" The tides have turned. This is perfect. So he starts getting his guys ready to leave the city to like push out to help Theoden's, and then you hear that boom, wah, and you see like fucking 10 elephants, and then Theoden's looking at it and he goes, "Fuck it, line up, let's go." Then he charges them.
What's Carl Urban's name again?
Aemir
Aemir. He was badass in the scene.
killed 2 Oliphants. Killed 2 at once with 1 spear.
Yeah, we didn't surf down the trunk like.
Yeah, I didn't surf down the trunk like a badass, but still, he killed the lead Oliphant,
Mm.
the lead Easterling, the Haradrim.
How fucking intimidating would that be? You're just like, imagine a hobbit being like 4 feet, I think they were.
Yeah.
Seeing a fucking giant elephant with like a big hut on top of it with them.
Like 30 guys raining arrows and then like barbed wire between the tusks, and it's just walking forward like those first guys that got hit. That was so brutal. I like when Grimble and like 3 other guys are underneath the elephant just shooting up into it.
Poor elephants.
And then fucking
And Legolas just climbs up the elephant with the arrows. That was cool.
yeah, Aemir just takes one down to its knees by like just chopping its Achilles, so it drops down, and then it's shoot the head, and like the horses are just doing circles around it, shooting it. I like that scene where like they split like a river, you know, like the Oliphant is in the middle, and they swarm around it and then loop back around, and it's just constant.
But even with all this badassness, they still kind of get overwhelmed.
They were getting overwhelmed, and then the Corsairs show up, and then that orc with the skull on his head, he goes, "Oh, about time, you sea rats! Come on, let's go. We got work to do." And then Aragorn jumps off, and he's like, "Okay." And then thousands of ghosts come flying out.
If I was Aragorn, I'd be like, just hang with us till the end of this, please.
Well, that's what Gimli says.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while the ghosts are jumping in,
You like the scene when they go up the elephant.
I mean, I know it's not canon, and it's like
stupid,
but it just looks cool.
Yeah, it's just like in World War Z when all the zombies climb up the wall.
The way I saw it was like a swarm of ants overtaking something bigger, you know?
I just hate the ghosts. They kind of
they were OP as fuck.
like the Ex Machina moment of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of this thing is like, even though they had a Deus Ex Machina moment, if Sauron got the ring, wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, so that's happening, and Frodo and Sam make their way to Mount Doom, right? And they're standing on this hill, right? And the eye scans over and almost sees Frodo, so Sam tackles him, and then he's like, "Come on, get up, we gotta move." And then Frodo's like, "I can't anymore. I can't move anymore."
Frozen spaces, and the ring's like, "Gotcha."
Yep. And then Sam's like, "Well, I can't carry that ring, but I can carry you." And he starts carrying him, and then yeah, the ghosts come through. Oh, the Witch King fights Theoden. Like the Witch King like swipes at Theoden, and like Theoden like fucking
mortally wounds him, right?
Well, Theoden charges him,
Yeah,
right? Because Theoden's like, "Fuck this, I'm a king, I can fight the Witch King." And then it grabs his horse and like shakes it, tosses it, and throws it down, and like crushes him from the waist down. And he's just laying there like, "I got fucked." And then the Nazgul comes up to eat him, and his niece Eowyn runs out, and the Witch King's like, "It's foolish to get between a Nazgul and its prey." And then the Nazgul bites, and then she sidesteps it and cuts its head off, which I thought was kind of lame, but whatever. Then the
She's
Nazgul,
super talented, bro.
yeah, then the Nazgul dies, and the Witch King gets up with the. Did you watch the behind the scenes thing where they explain the Witch King's mace?
No.
So at first it was like this size, and Peter Jackson was like bigger. So they made it like this size, and Peter Jackson was like, no, bigger. So eventually it was like this high off the ground, and the guy couldn't lift it. So they had to get people in like green screen suits to help him lift it, like 4 people, and then like yeah, and then everyone was like, "This sucks, man. This is bad." And then you see it in the movie, and when that mace drops, you're like, "Oh," because it's as big as her pretty much, and he's just swinging it with ease. So the Witch King and her fight, and she goes to block it for some reason, and just blows her arm apart, and she's laying on the ground all fucked up. Merry sees this, runs over and stabs the Witch King with a super sick knife that he got from Galadriel, which fucking makes the Witch King like scream in pain and drop to the ground. And he's like, "You know the fucking legend, no man can kill me, and I am no man." Pokes him in the face,
and
then he dies. And she reveals to Theoden like, "I'm your daughter or niece or whatever," and he's like, "Okay, you're in charge of my kingdom now." Okay, so she kills the Witch King, and I guess, oh yeah. So she kills the Witch King, and she gets super fucked up because she had to like crawl up to her uncle to be like, "It's me." And he was like, "I knew you'd always be a great warrior and leader. That's why I always held you in the background, because I knew I need you." She was like, "Oh, I can't believe I was so stupid and didn't realize that was happening." And then she like watches her uncle die. Mary's unconscious, and Gothmog, who survived the charge, sees her and manages to stand up first. She's crawling for her sword. Gothmog picks up I think a hammer, and just starts walking towards her. And then he raises it up, and then Aragorn cuts his arm off, slashes him against the belly. He lands on his knees, and then Gimli puts his axe in his head, and they just keep running like it wasn't even a big deal to them.
Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, basically. But like, she was like, "I'm about to die," and Aragorn was like, "Whoop, whoop," and then just kept going, and Gimli coup de grace him, and then kept going. Like, they were still. And that, I think, that scene is just to show you how, like, good they are. You know, like, they're just killing machines. Once they walk forward, it's
like
just...
in Dragon Ball Z. You have like Krillin and Yamcha fighting people, then Goku shows up, and he's like, "Bam."
Yeah. Or no, I was gonna say it's like you spend the whole series watching like Goku fight, and then you're like used to seeing Goku's power level, and then you watch Krillin struggle to fight something, and you're like, "Oh fuck," and then Goku just one-shots it, and you're like, "I forgot, Goku's super strong. I just got used to seeing him fight things," you know? That's what I think that scene was, just to remind you that, like, Aragorn and Gimli are amazing.
Okay. They're great.
Yeah. Then Legolas takes down an Oliphant, and everyone's impressed. Like, everyone's impressed.
And Carl Urban's like, "Come on."
Whatever. No, he runs over and sees his fucking sister laying on the ground. It gives the best movie scream ever. Don't know why they cut it out of the film. Just the no when he drops to his knees, like the initial realization. And then Aragorn heals everybody with magic.
Magic.
And then they're all hanging out, and then they're like, "What do we do?" Like Sauron still has an army, and it's one Hobbit versus an entire Orc army. What do we do? And Aragorn was like, let's play distraction. Come on, man, let's do it. Fuck it." And then everyone's like, yeah, fuck it. Because like if Frodo loses, we die anyway. Fuck it. So he gets everyone who's willing to go with him.
And this, at this point, they know Frodo's still there, right?
They know
They know he's there now because they all drew their attention towards.
yeah, because they figure it out because after they beat Sauron's army, they're like, why hasn't he sent more troops yet? And it's like, oh, because he doesn't have the ring. If he doesn't have the ring, that means Frodo still has the ring. And then Gandalf does like, I guess some like what's the word? Scrying. Like he peers into the magic winds to see what's up, and he's like, "Fucking Frodo's still alive. Let's fucking do some shit." And they like rally up, and they go outside the walls of Mordor, and the mouth of Sauron comes out, and he's like, "I killed your Hobbit friend. See." So Aragorn cuts his head off and breaks international. He violates the non-aggression pact treaty. So looks like war's on. Way to go, Aragorn.
Well, at that point, they're like, "Fuck it, we're
No,
going."
that's so out of character. I see. That's the one scene where I'm like, that's really cool, but I completely understand because like they're trying to build Aragorn as like this virtuous, amazing man, and he kills an unarmed person.
Because they killed
In
his
the
favorite
books-
little hobbit.
In the books, they say he was human. ... Once, and they gave Grim and Wormtongue a second chance. Why wouldn't they give the Mouth of Sauron a second chance? Give you a big scary mouth, and they all were weirded out by it.
Yeah.
And then, so he kills the Mouth of Sauron, and the gates open up, and this orc army comes out and surrounds Aragorn's army. And then Sauron starts talking to Aragorn using magic, and you see Aragorn kind of like look back at his fucking army, and then kind of look at Sauron, and you're like, for a second, you're like, "Oh, Aragorn, are you gonna be a bad guy?" And then he looks back again, and he smiles and draws his sword and charges head first. Merry and Pippin are the very, like, they're like, "Fuck yeah!" And they just come sprinting out full speed. And then everyone else is like, well, if the hobbits are doing it, and like,
Everybody just runs right past.
yeah, they just run straight dead center. Everybody's having a huge fight. And then it cuts back to Frodo and Sam, and Sam's got him, and they're basically standing at the mouth. And then Smeagol jumps on Frodo and starts strangling him, and Sam gets thrown to the side, and Sam fights Smeagol. He like hits him with a rock.
Well, this is before they have. That's after they have the scene where Sam's like, "Throw it in," because
No.
Smeagol attacks him when he's invisible, right?
We're not even there yet.
Why not?
No.
Goddamn.
We're outside that. God damn. So Smeagol and Sam are fighting, and Sam, remember, slices Smeagol, and Smeagol runs away, and then he turns around to see where Frodo is, and Frodo isn't there. So then he runs into the chamber, and he sees Frodo standing at the end holding it, and he goes, "Drop it." Or no, he runs in, and then it cuts to Aragorn and crew fighting, and this giant fucking troll comes out and basically is like, "You." And he starts fighting him, and the troll knocks Aragorn to the ground and steps on him and starts crushing him, and Legolas can't make it to him, and then it cuts to Frodo, and he's holding the ring, and Sam's like, "Drop the ring. Just drop it, Mr. Frodo." And no. And then he puts it on, and the eye turns straight to Mount Doom. The Nazgul pick up and fly to Mount Doom, like, because the Eagles showed up. Remember, the Eagles show up in the final battle because the Nazgul come in to swoop down on the army, and then like fucking 3 Eagles catch it. So the Nazgul retreat to Mount Doom. Sam's like just standing there confused, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then Smeagol sees the wet footsteps and jumps on Frodo and bites his finger off. And then Frodo and Sam are fighting, or Frodo and Smeagol are fighting, and they both go over the side. And then Sam runs over. Oh, we get that cool shot where the ring is falling just out of reach of Smeagol,
and grabs it. He's like, "Crash!"
And he catches it right when he hits the lava and like holds it, but he's sinking, and he tries to hold preserve it as long as he can. And then the ring sits on that little piece of magma, and Sam pulls Frodo up, and then it sinks in and dies.
Gross little finger.
Yeah, it's fucking. Again, I would, but whatever. I'm not Sam. Pulls him up. The eye explodes in the coolest explosion ever. Like, yeah, like, so cool. And Sam and Frodo are just sitting on a rock, like. And Sam's like, "I really thought we'd make it back." And Frodo's like, "Damn, dude, you are optimistic to the end, huh?" And then the Eagles save him.
Frodo's like, sorry, it was an ass back there.
Yeah, basically, like I wouldn't have made it without you, buddy.
He was just snatch.
Yep. And then they fly back to Minas Tirith, where Frodo recovers.
Wakes up in the little bed with the light shining on him.
Yep. And Gandalf's there, and he's like, "We won." And Gandalf's like, "We fucking won." And then Merry and Pippin run in, and then
Then they tickle each other on the bed.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, this is the first time they've seen him in like 2 years, and he just destroyed the One Ring. You know,
Yeah.
when you be like, "Dude, we get to keep living."
No, I just love how the bed's so big, and the three of them are on it.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
a king size bed.
It's like maybe like a twin.
Yeah.
Then Gimli walks in and like laughs and claps, and Legolas gives a nod of approval. And then finally Sam walks in, and Frodo's like, and it's like, "You're the hero." And Sam's like, "No, I'll just stay in the back." And it's like, we know Sam's the hero, but everyone writes about Frodo.
Yeah, dicks. Sam's like, I don't need the admiration.
I don't need it. Yeah, that's the best part about Sam. He's like,
Sam's like, I got the girl.
I get the girl, I get 2 kids, I get a fucking fancy ass house,
I
and
don't have to go to fucking elf heaven.
everybody knows I'm the baddest motherfucker in the world. I went to Mordor and back.
Sam just becomes a bouncer at the bar she works at.
Not even bouncer. He'd just be like the kingpin, where like all the other hobbits are like, "Hey Sam, looking good," and he's like, "Damn fucking straight."
They see a sequel, everybody just forgets about Sam. He just gets divorced. He's like, Master Frodo will
he's
come
still
back.
optimistic. Like, well, I guess it's okay. And you're like, Sam, god damn it. Like,
Still have Merry and Pippin.
right, Mary's
They're both just like super gay for each other.
No,
now.
they're of course, right? Funny. They say they have such extreme PTSD, they're never leaving the Green Dragon, and they're just drinking constantly.
The dark side of the ring.
Yeah, Pippin still has visions of Sauron in his head, and he's like, Mary's like, it's okay. And Mary's like remembering the battle with the Witch King, just seeing like people screaming and body parts flying. Like when he slams the door, they're both like, because they're just used to Uruk-hai coming for them.
Yeah, Gandalf, not with the fireworks.
Gandalf didn't leave Valinor. He didn't leave to Valinor with them, did he? I thought it was just the 3 elves, Bilbo and Frodo.
I don't think Gandalf was in that scene.
No, he was.
Then I think he escorted.
Yeah, I think he escorted them to the boat, but didn't go. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's the movie.
then it ends the same way the book did. Well, I'm home. And then yeah, Kino, such a good ending, and it's like, so Bilbo gives the book to Frodo. Frodo writes the Lord of the Rings, gives it to Sam, and then Sam writes and then everyone was happily ever after. It's so good.
Now, what would be your biggest negative to this movie? If you
Runtime, a lot of unnecessary scenes. That's about it.
Ghost Army for me.
I agree with a lot of the scenes they cut in this movie, because a lot of the scenes were unnecessary. The drinking scene, whatever.
This one had the least impactful deleted scenes.
Yeah, unlike the second and the first one.
First one I think had the best.
No, the second had the most impact. You get to see Boromir as an actual character for 5
I thought that was the first and the second that did that.
you get
No,
to see
you're right.
Boromir, and you get to see his relationship with his father more in the second one.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean,
This was one of the last trilogies that actually goes full force into creative storytelling
And there was no
filmmaking.
Lord of the Rings cinematic universe, 40 films over the next 40 years. Like, none of that bullshit.
Yeah, I think this was one of the last franchises. Well, until they did The Hobbit. But like we said at the beginning, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, The Hobbit doesn't exist. The Ralph Bakshi movies are really good, so those can exist. The video games aren't canon, but they're fun.
Well, to be fair with the animated thing and the live action, it was so many years after. Like the first animated came out, what, 79?
Yeah.
So come on.
But it's the same. The thing about the animated one and the live action one is it's pretty much the same story.
Yeah.
Just the Witch King. I like the Witch King's voice in the animated one. The Witch King in the animated one is a suit of armor with a pair of red eyes and a floating black crown. That's all it is. And he talks like this. And it's so great. I will kill you. And you're
I
like,
kind of
wow.
miss old voice acting.
Yeah, exactly. But then in the new one, he's like a fucking black metal, like a death metal singer, and like this scary fucking.
He looks so fucking cool though.
When they're suiting him up, and he's like, and then they put the helmet on him. He's fucking mace.
But how would you rank these movies if you're gonna say best to worst?
Best of the worst. All 3 are perfect.
So they're all number 1.
They're all number 1. I consider the Lord of the Rings number 1. Watch all 3 at once. It's awesome.
Nice 12-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
World War III's coming. Might as well watch all 3 at once.
Let us know what you thought about Lord of the Rings. Are you excited for the Amazon show?
No.